from the phone.
I got it. Okay.
If you don't mind. Okay, the basic thought was like cross promotion. I put it out on my LinkedIn, the YouTube, whatever else, and you do the same, doing the same and making it more about you, like connecting, making it more about you and not just me. So, or mainly not me. So, what came across my mind was the basic questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how.
Mhm.
So we can go one at a time.
Sure. Yeah. So who I am, my name is Chris. I'm a consultant at the Prosser Gallagher Institute, and I got into consulting because I had experienced some of my own setbacks in trying to become successful as an entrepreneur. I kept running into myself over and over, not realizing that I had some limiting beliefs. So I became a consultant and really learned the process of creating goals and following through with them. And that's what has been my inspiration to do to help other people. I guess that's the who and the what. The why is because I got tired of hitting that brick wall, that invisible brick wall. And it's not fun when you want to be successful and you have that strong, deep desire, but it doesn't happen because you feel like you're hitting an invisible ceiling. So not until you figure out what that ceiling is or that brick wall is, and until you become aware of it, then you can't fix it. And that's where what I learned about how the mind works really made a huge impact in my life, because we have a mind and we're not taught how to use it. And like Maxwell Maltz said, he wrote the book Psycho-Cybernetics. Man is not a machine, but he has a machine. And if you don't understand how to operate the machine, well, it's probably you're not going to operate it the right way. And the fact is, most people don't, because they create these limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, talking to themselves in a negative way, not realizing that that's a recipe for failure. And that's not what we want. We want people to succeed and live a full life. But you first have to understand what you're working with. Until you do that, success is really a hit and miss basis. You want it to be consistent. You want to have conscious awareness of how to create success, and not just have it once, but replicate it over and over. That's kind of my what and why. And who do we serve? Anyone who's ready to make a quantum leap in their results. People who know they are ready for something bigger. They want change. They know they have a right to be successful. They're ready and willing to put the work in. And that's all you need is desire. That's all you need. You don't have to know the how, just have a desire to make that goal happen. That's your starting point. The where, there is no where, because we're in a global networking group now. With Zoom, you can help anyone. Anyone who's ready, let's go. And the how, well, the how presents itself. I'll leave it at that. The how will present itself. Let's just talk. So.
I can't believe it was 2 years ago now. Before I've been down here since January of last year. It was about trying to think of what it was. It was a job that I was working part-time personal trainer. But the thing I remember, and I got it from the job, is the MAST, the motivation, accountability, structure, and knowledge. It came from a job that I started 2 years ago. You know what it was? It was finding somebody they know, like, and trust. I'm sure you've heard that before, and connecting with people that way. There were people say, you know what, I'm going to go with someone else, which is fine. I had my way. Other trainers did certain things. It was time, the scheduling, to relate with people one on, and here's was the big one, that it's effective questioning. You have to help them find their why.
Mhm.
Just the surface, how things, why you're doing it. It's what, and it came down, and I find that it turns out to be true that motivation, responsibility, structure, and knowledge. Maybe that's not the entire answer, but a lot of times it falls into one of those four things. They don't know any better. They need a kick in the butt to get to the gym. They need somebody up to answer through like a scale. And somebody, like along with the knowledge, with structure is somebody who knows what they're doing, who will do it the right way. Like this, that.
Mhm.
So, but, and first joining the networking, I was thinking, here, the guy does what I do and I want business, but what the reality is, like seeing it as competition, but the reality is you might know something that I don't know. I might know something that you don't know. We do things two different ways. Or however it is, you might connect with people that I don't. I might connect with people that you don't. I've been open about the addiction issue on my side. And maybe that, and hoping that, that's, and instead seeing as this is a guy I can learn from, who obviously knows what he's doing. He's done the like the 6 week series or things like that. Michelle, I won't say her name, does them, and getting to know what has led you into doing it. Was there something in your life, like for me, it was hitting that bottom with the addiction issue that forced me to change my life? What was there anything? Was this something you knew you wanted to do, or did it come through circumstances, like the path led you along to this thing?
For me, because I was trying so many different entrepreneurial things and not experiencing any serious success in any of them, made me realize, okay, what's the common denominator here? Why can't I figure it out with trading stocks and options, real estate, e-commerce, affiliate marketing, short-term rentals? I mean, you name it, I was looking into it, but I wasn't taking a whole lot of action, and I was really hesitant. And even when I did take action, I wasn't getting anywhere near the results I wanted. So I realized I am the common denominator. I have to first start figuring out who I am. And as I came across the material that Bob Proctor teaches in Proctor Gallagher Institute, it brought so much clarity because I realized that I had unknowingly been self-sabotaging with very limiting beliefs. And through some simple techniques and just some awareness, you realize you can just cut out a few things from your belief system and you start to see immediate results. And it's not that hard. It's just becoming you have to become aware of them. What's the old phrase? You don't know what you don't know. That's lacking awareness. And as we develop awareness by studying ourselves, that's what creates belief. Ultimately, that leads to faith, and that is what inspires action. So it really comes from studying who and what we are and developing that awareness.
Yeah, and I've shared about the song. It was the band on My Own Worst Enemy, and broke into his own house and parked in his front lawn. Like I did every one of those things, and realizing that was the outer issue. That was not the inner core.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you've experienced it, but I thought, like, wait a minute, I am the common denominator here. I got in trouble here. I got in trouble there. I did this. I got other legal issues there. And it was to deal, really doing not with the abuse, the doing that stuff was covering up the internal issue. And then like having that life changing thing was it. So would you find it was there a health issue, or it was trial and error, or maybe both?
Well, I did experience health issues early on too, fighting Crohn's disease. And in my case, yeah, there was that deep emotional impact. I was facing a major surgery that was set me back quite a while. And when someone came into my life and said, "You can change your life if you just change your diet," Well, I was ready for a change and I took immediate action. And that helped me out so much because not only did I get healthier, but I developed greater awareness in my ability to heal myself. So I had experienced great success in healing myself in a very short period of time. And so I thought, well, because I experienced success in one area of my life, health, I should be able to transfer that success to other areas of my life, like entrepreneurialism. And that wasn't the case. Not that I couldn't do it, but the circumstances that led me to be healthy were different than the circumstances I was in when I was trying to be successful in entrepreneurialism. So when I became aware of this information, I realized there's two ways in which we heal ourselves or make permanent changes. So if we want to make permanent habit changes, there's only two ways we can do it. The first is a deep emotional impact. So something that literally scares you permanently into action. So that's what I had from a health side. But then the other way is through something called constant spaced repetition. So that's creating a new idea, whether it's a goal or an affirmation, any idea that you want to implant into your mind. Well, you have to constantly repeat it over and over and over through a process called autosuggestion, which is discussed in the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He actually dedicates an entire chapter to this. The idea of constantly repeating one single idea to your mind until your mind finally accepts it. And it's not a matter of if, it will accept it. You just have to be willing to put in the time to plant that idea in there. It works. It just sounds so simple and easy that very few people actually believe it and even follow through on it. So if you want to make a permanent change, but you don't have that deep emotional impact to induce change, well, then you have to focus on constant spaced repetition. So whatever it is that you want, whether it's a goal or a permanent habit change, any one of those things, we use that process of autosuggestion to create that new belief system. Because it's not enough to know something, we have to believe it. Because we don't do what we know, we do what we believe. I know I'm supposed to eat healthier and get more sleep and relax and reduce stress, but how many people do it? They may know it, but they don't do it. We don't do what we know, we do what we believe. And not until you create that belief system are you actually going to follow through on it. And that belief, it really has to be attached to emotion. And that's where people are really missing the boat. You can have a goal, but if you're not emotionally involved or attached or inspired by your goal, that's not going to induce any action. And without action, we get no results. So you have to understand the emotional side of being involved with that goal or that belief. Really envision it. What's it like to live in that new life? And as you become emotionally involved in it, you find that the action follows because your belief in it is what creates the action, effortless action. Does that make sense?
And something I learned with that belief of learning at that job 2 years ago with the accountability is having to answer to somebody. And again, this has stuck with me for 2 years. And I'm like, oh my God, it's 100% true, the MASK. And thinking back on it is a sales tactic to a point, but there's truth to it. And I know from when I first had to put everything down, put that stuff down, and was working with my doctor, and he said, he says, I was 28, and he says, what do you want before you die? You're not going to see 30. The weight, there was diabetes, there was kidney failure, liver failure. I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing, but all these problems. And he says, what do you want before you turn 30? Because you're not. And that was the answer. We're going to lead into something is I said, I want to at least say I tried. I look like hell. I feel like hell. I'm living like hell, in nicer words. And I want to at least say I tried and got myself back together. I Did have to put me on cholesterol and blood pressure meds at the time. He said, that's the answer. I said, I'd like to lose weight. I don't want to look like this. And he sent me to a dietitian. I had never even heard of one. I didn't know what it was. And the accountability, because I had to get on the scale every week, write down what I was eating, write down what I was feeling, write down what I was putting into my body. And at that point, I'm like, I'm done. I have to, and to see and get on a scale every week. And then it was every 2 weeks because it was doing well. I actually came up very quickly. To have that to meet, and that's part of it, is to meet someone like us, to not with a dietitian anymore. It was basically like learning to ride a bicycle. You're one of your parents, whichever one, they're with you, you're on the tricycle, but they have to let go and you do it on your own.
Mhm.
That's why I see maybe somebody like us, even if it's a month, if it's a year, it might be temporary that they need us. What to have that what you weigh in this week, let me see what you ate, things like that. However, that's how I would do it. So maybe it's like I said before, with the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Like, do you see people regularly? You have to see them more than once, I would imagine, until they're on their own.
All right. So you touched on 2 points there. First, you experienced a deep emotional impact, which created, that motivation and desire to change. So that's a key point. When we're working with people, they may not have that deep emotional impact, right, to create that change. And you and I probably deal with people who maybe don't have belief in themselves yet. Maybe they don't believe they can reach this health goal or whatever goal it is that they have. So as you said, the accountability is key, because when you're working with someone, by doing that, we're helping build their belief in themselves. And it's a process. You take some action, you start to see some results, you take a little bit more action, then you start to see some more results. Ultimately, that builds the belief in people to the point where they no longer need us to believe in them. They have enough belief in themselves that it self-sustains itself, and they're able to continue on the path. So to your point, we want to work with people and get them to a point where they don't need us anymore. Because if they do, that's a sign that they don't have complete belief and faith in themselves. So as you said, it's not a one-time thing, because when you understand the mind and how it works, that there is a creative process involved, well, you need time for the process to work out. You just do. And for some people it's faster, for some people it may take a little longer, but generally around 4 to 6 months is what I say, to have that complete permanent change. Because what you're doing is really developing a brand new self-image. And once you have a brand new self-image, once you successfully change it, well, then everything just follows. And if you need to ever change it again, you've gone through the process. So yeah, there is a bit of change. I mean, there is a bit of a process. It takes time, and you will need some accountability if you don't have that belief in yourself. But that's fine, because that's where we come in. Does it make sense?
Yep. Oh, I think I'm running out of questions.
That's fine.
Do you have a specific area, like of expertise, like myself? I would want this abuse. I suffer depression, work with things like that. Do you have a specific area you prefer?
No, because in my case, although I healed myself from Crohn's disease, which the doctor said I would never do, when you understand the goal creating process, it's not limited to any part of our life. It applies to everything, because the creative process is universal. We think in images. So if I were to ask you to think of your car, a picture of your car comes up on the screen in your mind. If I ask you to think of your house and describe it to me, well, a picture of your house comes up on the screen in your mind. If I ask you to describe your mind, well, what would you say?
Some people would say the brain. But the truth of the matter is our brain is not our mind any more than our fingernail is. Now, we use the brain to communicate with the mind, but it's not the mind. So we're dealing with the unseen side of us. And that inherently creates confusion, because how can we work on something if we don't have a understanding of it, let alone have a picture of it? And it's the mind that we must first address in any change, any permanent change you want to make, whether it's health, business, relationship, it all starts in the mind, because your results in your life are nothing more than a manifestation or a reflection of what's going on in your mind. Results never lie, ever. Someone doesn't have to tell me what they're thinking. All I have to do is look at their daily habits and what they're doing, and I can tell what's going on in their mind real simple. So we have to develop an understanding of the mind, and we need to have a picture of it. And with what we teach, we actually give people a working model or a working picture of the mind. Now, although no one's ever seen it, we do need a picture to think with. And we actually offer a picture in an understanding of how the mind works. Because I used to work with electrical engineers, and they would tell me, Chris, I only need two things to fix something, to fix a machine. I need to know how the machine works, and I need a schematic of it. With those two things, I'll fix anything. Well, that's what we teach, how the mind works, and then literally a working schematic or a working picture of it. Because once you have a picture to work with, it gives you clarity. And once you have clarity, now you understand how the process works. As you gain understanding of how the process works, it builds your belief and faith in it. And once you have belief and faith in it, now you're willing to work with the process. It's really that simple. And you really come to understand that we are creative beings. We have massive potential and the ability to create anything we want. Do you have enough belief in yourself and in the process to follow through on it? And that's where we come in. It's not something you learn overnight. Trust me. You have to study it over and over and over, because, again, going back to constant spaced repetition, it may not seem logical to study the same thing over and over, but by doing that, that's what plants the new belief system in our mind. And once you believe something, then you follow through on it.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of that, something I don't talk about in the groups we go to is I've kind of the George Costanza syndrome. If everything I've ever done has been wrong, by default, the opposite has to be right. And that leads me into this, I'm not going to say religious, looked into religion, the three main ones. I've looked into spirituality and found the answer in problem is not always in my body. It's in my mind to look to feed. And something I remember that first semester I went back to school to study nutrition, just by chance, I was going part-time because I was working full-time. But by chance, what I picked that first semester, it laid the groundwork for the rest of it. I was in for 4.5 years. That was one semester off in a 5-year period. 4.5. And who's my but we have to, they said that the word vitamin comes from Latin, that's been absorbed into English. And with the VITA of vitamin is vital. It's necessary for life. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with our minds. It's the same exact, there's a lot of similar principles feeding our body and feeding our mind. And I find when I will bring spirituality, religion into, because I've been through the Bible, I've been through the Quran, and not that I'm an expert on any one of them, I've looked into a couple other things. But that change of mind is where it all begins. And from my own experience with the nutritionist, starting that process, putting that stuff away and listening and having a surrender, if okay, doing by default, the opposite has to be right. All but 2 of my physical problems went away. One of them we think is genetic, and the other one, it could be a couple of different things. I was not born with it. It could be this happened or that. It could have been the party. And well, here's where I'll go is that at 32 years old, I had a heart attack. And they said the only reason I lived, losing weight, putting the stuff down, and having changed my life, having lost all that weight, I would have been dead at 32. So what we teach, it works. It works. I lost all that weight. 4 years later, my heart gives. And why am I still alive? Because of doing I was in school studying at the time to be a nutritionist because I lost all that weight, and doing watching what I was putting in my body, exercise. It God's honest truth, it saved my life. And it was shortly after, and then I was living in New York at the time, and we got hit with Hurricane Sandy. Right after that, sir, I was still my body's in pain, and it hit. It's about changing the mind. It's not about it's. I said just mine is the two that one could have been struck, because of some earlier things that happened, but still alive and changing and having that realization to do things the right way. It's you say is 100% true, and I'm a testimony of that. So, eating right, doing the right thing, how we deal with our bodies, it all goes away.
Right. Yeah, it's our self-image that really we need to focus on. So, because the self-image is a big part of our mindset, and how we look at ourselves really determines how we're going to treat ourselves. So if you're saying negative things like that I am my own worst enemy, or that I'm always messing up, or that I'm oh my goodness, here it happens again. What we're actually doing is auto-suggesting, kind of what I was saying before. That's the point I didn't really talk about, is that we are always auto-suggesting whether we realize it or not. So the words we say, the beliefs that we have about ourselves on a daily basis, all we're doing is auto-suggesting that self to our minds over and over and over, and that influences our self-image. So we have to become incredibly aware of what it is that we're saying, and more importantly, let's focus on what we want. Because as you focus on the image of who you want to be, whether if you want to be healthy and sober and successful, and be able to communicate well and have strong relationships, it really doesn't do you a whole lot of good to keep focusing on where or why you got into the situation that you are. Because you can focus on it all you want, but as you continue to give more energy to why you got here, you're really gonna begin to replay those ideas in your mind, and you're auto-suggesting those ideas back into your mind. We don't have to go and psychoanalyze everything that's happened in our life. We've made some mistakes, that's fine. Learn the lesson, remember the lesson, and move on. But we have to focus on what we want, that new vision for ourselves. Put so much energy into it, because where focus goes, energy flows. As we continue to focus on that vision for who we want to be, healthy, sober, successful, a great communicator in a loving relationship with kids, we put our conscious attention on that. And what you come to find is that you identify with it, and you slowly move into that person. And it doesn't have to be slow, by the way. You can move in there very fast, depending on how much attention you give to it. But just like a light bulb and a laser, they may have the same amount of energy, but what's the difference? All the energy is focused on one area with the laser. What if we created a laser-like vision, or create a laser-like focus on the vision for what you want? You realize you actually move into that vision of who you want to be very, very fast. And that's all mindset is. Just create the vision for who you want to be, and then we follow the process of putting your conscious attention on it. And as you do that, what happens is you begin to attract and become aware of opportunities around you to help you move into that person. And before you know it, you realize, oh, I'm here. I've been thinking about it for so long. I'm here. It's a process. And if you understand it, then you're able to follow through with it.
Yeah, it just made me think of there's a book called The Power of Positive Thinking,
Mm-hmm.
Norman Vincent Peale, and
Yeah.
he'd read it again, then some couldn't place it. I haven't read it in a long time, but remember getting from that book, he knew the founders of the 12-step program. He had met with them, brings it up in the book, and somewhere it brings up about the guy who wrote it, Norman Vincent was a pastor. And he talks about surrender, not a sign of weakness. He says surrender does not necessarily mean to admit defeat, but to switch to a way that works. You're going to deal with the same problem. If it's got to be fixed, it's got to be fixed, but you're going to try it different. And having that awareness, it's helped change my life. The same thing, and to have, thinking back here, you always talk about habits and choices. To start that process, first, what we're doing now, and we're going to start moving towards positive, and that George Costanza's in, as I call it. How much it helps to start. It starts in the mind. The realization. Wait a minute. If my health is out of line, my weight was, and it. Wait a minute, something's wrong here. I have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to the doctor, listening to somebody like us, so we don't need the doctor. And were you at the LinkedIn posting party last night or 2 nights ago?
Yes.
You were. Okay, I love those. Are great. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
But not that you were going to be focused there. Anybody was going to be focusing on one post, let alone mine. But having the realization, as I've been doing those events, is that the problem. And I remember learning about this in school. They had a map of the country. I don't remember what year. So this class, I took it in 2014. So, what the country looks like, and I compare it to a Verizon Sprint map, whatever they show. This is how much of the country we cover. And you got a little blank spot here, a little blank spot there. They all cover the whole country. That's what's happening with our weight. It's happening pretty rapidly. That there was a pocket of obesity here in Utah. There was a pocket of obesity here in New Hampshire, but now the entire country is covered in those red dots, like the Verizon commercials. And the realization, and it's not an original thought, learning about it in school, that the problem is not necessarily the healthcare. It's not that our premiums are through the roof. Yes, it's a problem, but that's not the cause. It's and the insurance company doesn't want to cover that. It's the problem is we're looking at, we smoke, we drink, we like crazy, drive drunk, we take illegal drugs, we abuse legal drugs, but from my own experience, I don't need those. They are for like, I got to take an aspirin every day for the heart problem. But if the solution can start within ourselves, watching what we do, putting down smoking, and watch how quickly our healthcare costs go down.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't happen overnight. It would take 330 million people in this country to fix it. But that we are responsible for it. We can change ourselves. The government is not going to make it either. Not the DUI somebody got, those are the outward consequences.
Yeah. People are focusing on the results, like you said. We're trying to figure out, we're trying to address things outside of our sphere of influence. And to your point, it's not the government's responsibility, nor has it ever been the responsibility to heal us. And medical system, in all honesty, it's there for us. We have it there in case of catastrophes, or a broken leg, or some sudden injury. But when it comes to chronic issues in long-term health, our medical system gets a failing grade, easy, not even close to passing. And we all know that our medical system is not designed to heal, create permanent health.
At all.
Yeah, so we don't even have to discuss that. It's more about, let's focus on what responsibility do we have to ourselves. Too often I hear people ask, oh, what kind of guarantee do I have with your program? Or what kind of guarantee do I have with this? I throw it right back at them and say, well, what kind of guarantee are you willing to make to yourself that you're going to follow through on it? Are you guaranteeing that you're going to make a permanent decision that this version of health that you want is yours, regardless of the programs or the food? Because if you're relying on me to guarantee the results for you, well, that's not going to happen. It comes down to, are you ready and willing to take responsibility for your health? And are you willing to explore new ideas that weren't discussed to us as children and implement those new ideas so that we can get the results that we want? Ultimately realizing the results we want really depend on us. And we have more control over our situation, any situation, than they realize.
Yeah, I still remember my very first client. He was, he was very, and did the initial paper. I'm usually pretty about the time. Okay, pay for half an hour, and now 45 minutes. Right. But he said after the first session, because, and I know from when I lost the weight, the more weight I had to lose, the quicker it came off. But as I lost, but as I lost weight, the weight was coming off slower and slower.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I could describe it in like scientific terms, although I learned about it. But he said, and I have no guarantee. I said, it came off quicker at first. Your body's, and I told him my story, and I said, but that's the whole picture. And he called the day before our next meeting a week later, and he texted, and, oh, you said I'd lose all this weight, and you said I was supposed to lose this and that, and I'm like, hold on. First of all, I'm not legally to say that. Second of all, it might not be true. I do not discuss specific numbers. Can I tell you, you're going to lose 50 pounds your first week, or guaranteed to lose 20 pounds? I said that. And he got angry and, well, it's your fault. And I said, calmly, if you want to take, what I give you is suggestions. You can take what you want. If it doesn't work for you, don't take it.
Mm-hmm.
And his response was, you said I'd lose this amount of weight in the first week. Have a nice day. Okay. Okay. I know I did the right thing. As a guy, and describing what okay, eventually I didn't need a dietitian anymore.
Right. Yeah, we can't, even the coaches that we bring on, the resources that we bring in from around us, they're there to help us move to the next step, but they're not going to make us move to that next step. So when you get into the right mindset, what you'll find is you begin attracting people, opportunities, and the resources you need to help you get to that goal. But it's not going to happen for you. You have to take the work. The resources, people, and opportunities, they'll come to you, but ultimately it comes down to free will. Are you willing to recognize an opportunity when it comes and say, well, this may not be the opportunity I was expecting, but this is the opportunity I need to help me reach that goal. So it comes down to a decision. Are you going to follow through on this? And then ultimately, the knowledge we gain after following through on it, that's what real learning is. And then we can move forward. But yeah, to your point, we can't do the work for people. It's free will. We can be there. We can be the a resource. We can be their source of belief as they're trying to develop that belief in themselves. But faith and belief without action is going to lead to no results. And that is what creates resentment and anxiety, because people are stuck, but when it comes time to pull the trigger, they're not doing it. So.
Something that I did in the last year, it's not gonna say pretty hard, but it sunk in. Doing one thing at a time, one at a, and especially now, telling people have, and you talk a lot about goals, and which is a good thing, something where I think of normally. But to make okay, Monday I have this, Tuesday I have that, or planning out, and I tell people, you know what, bring your lunch to work. Instead of and have, okay, I can make this. Okay, I don't even know what day today is. Today's Monday. Let's say today's Monday. Okay, my stuff ready for Tuesday. Here's what I'm going to bring for lunch, because, and it's definitely, I've experienced it myself, learned about it in school, because what's going to be nearby where you work? A McDonald's, a Taco Bell, anything in that field. Help structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, it's the days I'll get to the gym. Bring your gym bag to work. Leave it in your car. Things like that. Little tricks.
Yeah, you definitely need that structure. And to your point, one thing at a time. That's so absolutely true. It's one thing at a time. You can have a personal goal and a business goal, but limited to that. Focus on that one thing. Now, that doesn't mean you can't work on other stuff. I think the best analogy I have is, if you're going from New York to Los Angeles is the final destination, but that doesn't mean you can't pass through Chicago and St. Louis and Denver along the way. So you have that one goal, that one thing you really desire, and that goal ideally would encompass a bunch of other things that you want. But as you focus on one goal, all the other stuff happens. And when you're trying to change habits, focus on one habit change at a time. Most people are trying to change way too many habits at one time. And when you try and do that, you end up changing nothing. So it's better to change one habit at a time, put all your time and energy into changing that one single habit, and it can happen fast. This outdated belief that it takes 21 days or 67 days or 90 days to create a habit, it's not true. People can change habits in a matter of days if they really wanted to, but you have to put total concentration on changing it, and not just force it, but create a vision of that new habit and living from that new habit. And you focus on one at a time. And if you do one or two habits every month or every 2 months, let's just say one habit every 2 months, you change 6 major habits in your life in one calendar year, you change your life. Most people are only 1 or 2 habits away from making a quantum leap in their personal results, their business results. That's it. It's usually just 1 or 2 habits. If you can learn to change one permanently and you understand the creative process, then you can do it over and over and over. But you have to understand how to do it and then follow through on it. And again, that's a committed decision, free will, and you have to want it. That's why I tell people desire is the most basic portion of this entire equation. You have to want it, because that desire is what pushes you through all the inevitable obstacles like fear, failure, and setbacks. That's what pushes you through to start getting the results you want. But one thing at a time, like you said, it's a perfect analogy.
But you're like, from experience, having a goal. When I first had that doctor at that doctor's appointment, he says he's 28, you're not going to see 30. He asked what I wanted before that happened. And God's honest truth, this is a testament to what you are saying, 100% true. I said, I want to weigh what I weighed the day I graduated high school. I was thin. I had some muscle on me, except I went to college and went down a completely wrong path. Looking good. I was in shape, and sure enough, within a couple of months, I weighed less than that. What the hell had happened? And I wound up, I weighed 170 pounds the day I graduated high school. By the time I was done with the dietitian, who said, keep going, you can do better, you can keep going, 144 pounds.
That's
Which
a lot.
dude, you were like, holy God, having that goal. And my thought was, I'd rather have some insulation. Like, I'd rather get to less than 170. That way, if I come back up a little bit,
Mhm. Awesome.
having that goal was, and I find, and I tell you, from going back to school, I'm like, I just want to get by. I'm not like, I'm like, but I realized during that first semester, I have to do better than that. I'm going to go for a 4.0 every single semester. That's the goal. If I get a 3.7, look at that. I'll be very, and that one, or getting a 4.0, I can I can relax now. I'll have a 4.0 every semester. It's getting a text message.
Mhm.
Adding to keep going and going and going to go for it. To have, like, if you don't know where you're going, you won't get there.
Exactly. Yes. So true. So what are your goals? What are you working on right now?
For me, now I'm losing weight again. I'm using an app called when moving and questions about my insurance. Not recommended, but doing it on definitely. I'm using an app. It's called Lose It. It's got like a little orange the icon, and tracking every day. And again, and I would tell this to clients at the gym, and you might understand why you need a trainer. Like when you sign up at the gym, you get the free session, the trainer. But I tell people the hardest part of going to the gym is going to the gym.
Right.
So also why we need the accountability to say, hey, why didn't you go to the gym today? For someone like you can comment on this too, is I know I'll go to the gym every day, or unless, some random circumstance prevents it. But to get to that point, to help the people get to that point of, I always forget to say this in the events we go to, is that the best client is the one that doesn't need me. That's the goal. Would I like to do comment forever? Of course. But the goal is, that's the goal. So you're doing it on, like, riding a bicycle, and your father lets.
Yeah. Right. Permanent change. Permanent change means we're able to hold it and keep it without having to rely on someone else and then replicate that change over and over. So that's the goal. Fantastic, my man. This has been fun. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, it was nice.
So cool. All right. Well, it was great talking with you. Thanks.
Yeah, just I'm